The streets of Manila were alive with sound that night, but among the noise of traffic, laughter, and shouting vendors, one voice rose above it all. 13-year-old Miguel Santos stood on a cracked corner, clutching a worn-out guitar with one missing string. His little sister Leah sat nearby, holding a plastic cup for coins. The faint glow from a nearby streetlight reflected off her tired but hopeful eyes. Miguel began to sing, Hotel California, a song he learned from an old radio his mother had rescued from the trash. His voice carried through the humid air, raw and haunting, wrapping around the hearts of strangers passing by. Some stopped, drawn by the emotion in his tone, others smiled sadly and dropped coins into the cup. For Miguel, this was more than a song, it was a dream trying to break free from poverty. Their mother worked long shifts in a laundry shop, often coming home exhausted, her hands red and raw from detergent. Miguel would stay up late, waiting for her, telling her how many pesos they earned that day. One day, "Mama, I'll sing on a real stage," he'd whisper. She'd smile weakly, brush his hair, and say, "Dream big, Anik, but never forget where you came from." He never did. That night, a foreign tourist stopped and listened, completely mesmerized by the boy's voice. The tourist recorded a short video on his phone and shared it online, adding the caption, "The voice of an angel in the streets of Manila." Miguel didn't even know about it until days later when strangers started approaching him, asking for selfies and offering small gifts. His simple song had traveled across the world. Within a week, the video reached millions. People in the United States, Europe, and Asia shared it, calling him the street singer of the Philippines. Then, one afternoon, a letter arrived, an invitation to audition for America's Got Talent. Miguel couldn't believe it. His hands shook as he held the paper, tears filling his eyes. His mother's expression was mixed with pride and fear. "It's your chance, Hio," she said softly. "But what about Leah?" he asked. "She needs me." His mother put her arms around him and whispered, "We'll take care of her. You go and show the world what you can do." The night before his flight, Miguel couldn't sleep. He stared out the window of their tiny apartment, listening to the sounds of the city that had raised him. The next morning, carrying a small backpack and his old guitar, he stepped onto an airplane for the first time. The world outside the clouds seemed endless, just like his dream. When Miguel walked onto the America's Got Talent stage, the crowd's size overwhelmed him. The bright lights blinded his eyes, and his heart pounded so loudly he thought the judges could hear it. He wore a borrowed white shirt that hung loosely on his small frame and shoes 2 sizes too big, a gift from a neighbor who believed in him. Simon Cowell looked at him with curiosity. "What's your name, and where are you from?" Miguel took a deep breath. "My name is Miguel Santos. I'm from the Philippines," he said in a trembling voice. "What will you be singing today?" Simon asked. "Hotel California by the Eagles," he replied. "It's the song that gave me hope." The music started, and suddenly, all his fear disappeared. He closed his eyes and let the melody carry him. His voice, filled with passion and pain, drifted through the auditorium like magic. The audience went silent, mesmerized. Every note spoke of hardship, love, and dreams too big for his small world. When he hit the final line, the room erupted in applause. People stood, cheering and crying. Simon's expression softened as he said, "That was extraordinary." Heidi wiped away tears, whispering, "He's an angel." Then Sofia Vergara leaned forward, smiling through her own tears, and slammed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti burst through the air as Miguel fell to his knees, overwhelmed. The judges ran to hug him as the crowd chanted his name. Backstage, his phone rang, it was his mother. Through tears, he said, "Mama, I did it." And for the first time, the boy from the streets of Manila truly believed that dreams could come true. The morning after his golden buzzer moment, Miguel woke up in a small hotel room, the smell of pancakes drifting through the air. For the first time in his life, he slept in a bed that wasn't shared or broken. As sunlight streamed through the curtains, reality began to sink in. He wasn't just a street boy from Manila anymore, he was the Filipino kid the whole world was talking about. His performance had gone viral overnight, reaching millions of views in less than 24 hours. Messages flooded in from every corner of the world. People said his voice gave them hope, that his story reminded them to believe again. Miguel sat quietly, scrolling through the comments on his borrowed phone, tears filling his eyes. "You changed my life," one person wrote. He couldn't believe people were saying he changed their lives. All he ever wanted was to sing so his family wouldn't go hungry. Back in the Philippines, his mother was interviewed on TV, her voice trembling with pride. Leah, holding a small golden paper star, told the camera, "My kuya is a superstar now." But while Miguel's fame grew, so did the pressure. The competition was getting tougher, and he felt the weight of the world's expectations pressing down on his shoulders. During rehearsals, he struggled to focus. Sometimes he'd stop mid-song, his hands shaking. The producers noticed and called in Simon Cowell, who sat beside him quietly before saying, "Miguel, you don't have to prove anything anymore. You already touched the world. Now sing like you're healing, not competing." Those words stuck in his mind. One night before the semi-finals, he sat alone backstage, clutching the small bracelet Leah had made for him from colored beads. He whispered a prayer, asking for strength. Then, without warning, the door opened, and his mother and sister walked in. Miguel froze, his eyes widening. He thought he was dreaming. His mother smiled through tears and said, "We're here, Anik." Leah ran into his arms, laughing and crying at the same time. Miguel broke down, holding them both tightly. The producers had secretly flown them in to surprise him, and that reunion became one of the most emotional moments ever seen on the show. Miguel promised them he would give the performance of his life. That night, as he lay in bed, he finally felt complete. When the night of the semifinals arrived, the atmosphere in the theater was electric. The lights dimmed, and a hush fell over the audience. Miguel stepped onto the stage wearing a simple dark jacket and jeans, his mother and sister watching from the front row. He had chosen "Tears in Heaven" by Eric Clapton, a song about loss and love. The first notes played, and his voice came out soft, trembling, but pure. Each word carried the weight of his journey, from the streets of Manila to this moment under the bright lights. The cameras zoomed in as tears rolled down his face, yet his voice never cracked. By the final line, the theater was silent, almost afraid to breathe. Then, slowly, everyone rose to their feet. Howie Mandel was the first to speak, his voice shaky. "You don't just sing, Miguel. You remind us of what it means to feel." Heidi nodded, wiping her tears. "That was beautiful and painful all at once," she said softly. Sofia smiled through tears, saying, "You are a gift to this world." Simon stood up, looking straight at Miguel. "You are the definition of what this show stands for: hope, heart, and authenticity." That performance was spiritual. The crowd roared, chanting his name again. Miguel smiled, looking at his family, knowing he had made them proud. When he left the stage, his mother hugged him tightly and whispered, "Win or lose, you've already won." Later that night, Miguel lay awake in his room, replaying the cheers in his head. He didn't know if he'd win the competition, but something deeper had changed. He no longer felt like the boy who sang for coins on the street. He was now the boy who sang for souls. And as he looked out the window at the stars over Los Angeles, he made a quiet promise: if he ever went home, he would make sure other children like him would also have a voice. The night of the grand finale arrived, and the entire world was watching. The stage lights of America's Got Talent glowed brighter than ever, and backstage, Miguel sat in silence, his guitar resting across his lap. He could hear the roar of the audience as other contestants performed, but his mind was somewhere else, back home in Manila. He thought of the streets where he once sang barefoot, the smell of roasted corn in the air, the sound of tricycles rattling past, and his little sister dancing beside him. Now, he was about to sing on the biggest stage in the world. When a producer called his name, he stood, took a deep breath, and whispered, "For my family, for every kid who dreams." He walked out under the blinding lights, dressed in a simple white shirt and jeans, just as he had promised himself. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Miguel remained calm. Simon Cowell smiled, nodding slightly as if to say, "You've got this." The music began, an acoustic version of "Hotel California," the song that changed his life. The guitar started slow, haunting, and Miguel's voice floated over the melody like a whisper of memory. Each line carried his journey, from the streets of Manila to this moment of glory. When the chorus came, the band joined in, and Miguel's voice rose higher, stronger, richer, filled with emotion that no one in the theater could ignore. Tears shimmered in the judges' eyes as the crowd swayed, mesmerized by the sound of a boy singing his truth. By the final verse, Miguel's voice cracked slightly, not from weakness but from pure feeling. The audience rose to their feet even before the last note ended. The roar was deafening. Heidi clutched her heart, tears streaming down her cheeks. Howie said, "That was perfection. That wasn't a performance, it was a prayer." Sofia whispered, "You are a miracle, Miguel." Simon stood, eyes glistening, and said softly, "I've seen many winners on this stage, but tonight, I witnessed something divine." Miguel smiled through his tears, bowing deeply. The crowd continued to chant his name, Miguel. 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 When he walked off stage, his mother and sister were waiting, their arms open. He collapsed into their embrace, shaking with emotion. When results night arrived, the tension in the theater was electric. The host's voice echoed through the hall as he read the names one by one. Miguel stood among the finalists, his hands trembling, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, with a dramatic pause, the host smiled and shouted, "The winner of America's Got Talent 2025 is Miguel Santos." The confetti exploded once more, golden and bright, raining down like stars. Miguel covered his face with his hands, unable to believe it. Simon hugged him tightly and whispered, "Never forget who you are." Miguel's mother and sister ran onto the stage, and together they held the trophy high. The crowd screamed, the cameras flashed, and Miguel smiled through his tears, saying into the microphone, "For every poor child who dreams, this is for you." The world had just witnessed history, and a boy from the streets of Manila had become a symbol of hope. Weeks later, the plane touched down in Manila, and Miguel was home again. The airport was packed with thousands of people waving flags, holding banners, and shouting his name. "Welcome home, Miguel," echoed through the crowd. News crews followed his every step, but Miguel's eyes searched only for the familiar faces of his neighbors, the ones who had once dropped coins in his sister's cup. His mother cried as people hugged her, thanking her for raising a son who made the world proud. But Miguel didn't want fame, he wanted purpose. He used part of his prize money to build a small music school in his community, naming it Golden Dreams Academy. The school's goal was simple: to give underprivileged children a chance to discover their voices. On the first day, dozens of kids arrived barefoot and shy, just like he once was. Miguel greeted them with a warm smile and told them, "You don't need money to have a dream, you just need heart." He began teaching them the same song that started it all, Hotel California. His sister Leah sang beside him, their harmonies blending perfectly. As the sun set behind the city skyline, the sound of music filled the air once more. The camera of a local news station captured the scene. Children singing, smiling, laughing, their voices carrying through the evening breeze. Miguel looked at them, his heart full. He had won the world's biggest stage, but this moment, was the real prize. The boy who once sang for survival was now helping others sing for hope, and his journey had come full circle.